last time we looked at a VCR, it was the National NV-730. That was back in episode 114. This time we're going to look at the NV-770, which is pretty much the same thing. I think there are some slight differences which we will, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. But since it's here and it's the next one I've got in the model number series, we'll take a look at it. Let's take a look at the front. It's got one of those good control panels that flops down, same as what we saw on the 730. Alright, so on the front, it's got a nice clean front, and the whole bottom section flops down to reveal the controls. And we find what this has, in the bad light here, is it's got, compared to the NV-730, they've added a slow motion and slow motion speed adjustment. If we look at the picture of the control panel for the other one, see it was just play, stop. The only special things was pause and still advance, which you still get here, pause, still advance, but they've added in, you can even see that, the slow and the variable speed for the slow. Oh, it's because I'm blocking the light, that's what's going on. Whereas everything else remains the same. It's still got the short play, long play, the timer controls, the tracking in picture, and then the counter input selection. And if we take a look around the back, again it's the usual stuff there. We've got video and audio input, video and audio output, test signal, color selection, the bleep. It's got the bleep that's switched on. I think they mean beep, but anyway, it says bleep for some reason. And the RF inputs and outputs. And there's a rating label down there. So the EA version, 30 watts. Okay, now I don't have the service manual for this model. This will probably do though. It's got most of the same stuff. I have no idea if this thing works. Let's take the covers off and then we'll plug it in and see what happens. I can't remember if I've tested this before. Presumably I've tested it. I don't know, it's been sitting around in the pile quite a long time. Unlike the other ones, the top panel cover's kind of got a slight goldish tint to it. Not the usual silver color. That's not a white balance issue there, I don't think. I must have been in there because, taking away the supercapacitors since they leak and wreck everything. And in terms of other capacitors, no obvious leaking seen right there. Take this cover off so we can check out business going on under there. The video head. Interesting, we haven't come across any more where the RF wires have drooped down. Well, come unstuck can come down. It has got a new back tension band fitted. It's not the original one. Now the idler tire is quite bad. Okay, well let's switch it on, see if anything happens. Okay, the clock is flashing very dull. Power's up. We'll stick this tape husk in there and see if we can get some operation. That's pretty good, isn't it? You see, it's another one, well, like before, it's got that quite wide belt there on the tape loading mechanism, so it doesn't suffer from the slipping like the other ones that use the little tiny thin belt did or do. And yeah, that take-up's very weak. And so is that rewind. It might be enough to still let us test it though. See again, there's no heater, no little regulator there. Heat the drum. Check the back tension's still good as we expect. The take-up is not too bad. It definitely won't chew a tape. So maybe it's good to go. Try it out. Find and hook up a video cable. Maybe it's a short video. Well, I thought it was going to be short anyway because we already looked quite fully at the similar model machine. I think that one just worked with no problems, didn't it? Video out. Alright, let's turn on a monitor. Stick in a tape that's got something on it, and we'll see how this goes. Oh. No take up. Ah, we just tested that and it looked like it was going to be fine. Guess it's not fine. Weird. That's strange because when I was poking it about, the take up seemed like it would be fine. Oh, it's alright now. Okay. There's a funny little squeaky noise. Yeah. The other one had a bad pulley on it, didn't it? The little thing that was coming out of the motor that drives the take-up reel had a little bump on it, and we swapped it out for another one. Was that true? This might be in a similar state of disrepair. Perhaps we should take it out and have a look at it. But otherwise, the picture doesn't seem to be too bad for not doing anything to it. Just get it out after years of being turned off and turn it on and see what happens. But yeah, the weird noises it's making suggest this take-up is no good, as you can see. Oh, maybe the tape's not sitting quite in the right position, since just poking it upset it. You try the slow. Huh, if the other one didn't have slow, then did it have that slow tracking control that we get on the front of this? Yeah, the picture's not the best. Where was that? Oh, they called it still tracking there. That's funny, so it probably had all the circuitry, it just didn't do it. So now it is actually called slow tracking. And there's little white specks on the picture. It's not that wonderful. See there on the control, well, on the display, as you push these plus minus buttons to vary the slow speed, you can see more of those. Okay, that's as slow as it goes, 2 blocks by the look of it. And as you push plus, it fills in more, and it makes a horrible beeping noise because we've got the bleep on. Press play to resume normal playback. Into slow. I think that's about the fastest slow, and as we adjust the slow tracking, you can see the noise bars get worse. Oh, if we put it right over into that position, get about the cleanest picture there. Although it's got that kind of snow on it, I don't know if that suggests some sort of RF noise, doesn't it? Something like that. Maybe the head's gone a bit dodgy. But the captured image there, it's about the same. So it's fairly functional. There's just a bit of mechanical issues. Well, you can see down there, there's another thing in the darkness, that the we have to take it apart more so we can look in there. Alright, well, let's switch it off and dig into this stuff. We'll take the front controls off, pull this board out and have a poke around in there, and take the bottom off, take the cassette loading mechanism out, and see what's going on in there. I think, again, this one You only have to take, you don't have to take the bottom cover off to get the main part of the control panel or the front opened up, because the flip down controls are down the bottom. What? Because the flip down controls take the bottom half of this control panel area, this front panel. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that top bit's off now. So you can see there, we've now got the top bit exposed. There's nothing in that main section, just some wires going over to the buttons over there for power, eject, and well, standby and standby light, eject button, and the bottom half comes off separately. That means now we can take this off. The cassette loading mechanism can come out. It will just push back. Now we can inspect the crustiness of the... So the shaft doesn't seem to have anything wrong with it there. Yeah, we can't take that out without taking the bottom off, but I think the only problem is that the tyre is just very perished on there, because the shaft on the motor looks fine. Well, it could have gone very slippery. But yeah, you can see there, it's all cracked and it's gone pretty smooth. But the motor shaft down in there seems to be in fairly good order, though it has also gone very smooth, so yeah, that's why it's not functioning the best. But yeah, you can see there, it's a newer replacement back tension band. It's got the clear strip that the felt is attached to, rather than the original ones, which are metal and then they just fall off after a while. These ones are better, but the best ones, the felt actually comes all the way to the end and gets crimped in along with the band. That way they can never disconnect themselves. Well, they can't unglue themselves, because even if they do become unglued, then it doesn't matter, because the band is still held by the crimping at the ends. We'll just take a look under here just for fun. So undoing the front board with the display on it, that lifts up and undoes some clips that then will allow this board to be flipped out, although we need to undo that clip there and release that wire. Now you can get to the other side of that for servicing, and then similarly this board here, so that's the video signal coming off the head, goes into there, so main head amp, and it also looks like it's got some power distribution stuff on it. There's grey wires. Yeah, there is in the back there power regulator IC, and that's wiring up to here, various capacitors, and then we got a couple more screws, and then this main board will flip out. There's this extra grounding wire, presumably grounding, it's just very short. Maybe they had a problem with voltage drops, with ground loops, so they put this extra wire in. Guess presumably that something would have happened there. Now on this board, that looks like servo. It's got motor driver ICs there, and various other things, and system control stuff. A big chip there. Might say on it somewhere what it is, or what the function is on this board. Not that I can see. And then this board underneath is the video processing, and probably audio too in that section. So we can see there, heatsink on that device, and that one with an exposed metal top for dissipating heat. Those will be the motor drivers, capstan motor and the video head motor. And then these other ICs will be various control things. That's probably main CPU for controlling everything, system control. And then these ones down here with the little heatsink tabs, those will be the motor drivers for the loading motor, and probably the take-up supply reel motor, maybe, or maybe that's got a driver in there. That might be a motor driver as well, that other SIP or SIL IC. Good quality, single-sided, non-plated board, probably all hand-drawn. Look at the nice tracks on that, probably drawn by hand. Good quality stuff. Alright, let's put it back together from this side and then we'll take a look in the bottom, see what's going on in there. Try to put the screws back into the threads that they came out of by backing them up slightly until they click in. For some reason there wasn't a screw in there. I don't think there was one over here because I see the mark. Good to not cut a new thread, just put them back in their existing thread. Otherwise where did that go? Otherwise the plastic will get reamed out and then the screws won't grip. That takes quite a few doings and undoings for that to happen. It does look kind of damp over here. Maybe some of those caps were replaced. Not sure, it's possible I worked on this a long time ago. It does look like it. That there is a new capacitor because it's got very clean solder joins and evidence of being replaced. It's not the original capacitor. I probably replaced it. Also interesting, it looks like you can fit different CPUs there. Presumably that's CPU timer controller IC thing. It's got a resonator oscillator type thing. Yeah, it does just look kind of juicy in that area there. The supercap's probably leaked as well. That's why it's kind of yellowy there. All the gross stuff would have come out of them. But yeah, that's a new capacitor, so presumably I put that in at some point. But I don't think any of the others were changed. I wonder if that's where the other VCR, the NV-770, had that kind of purpley coloured capacitor. I remember those seemed to leak more or sooner than the other coloured capacitors for some reason. Must be a slightly different version, different ESR. Something like that. But yes, as we've seen in other machines of this age, don't expect any capacitors in this to still be working. And it's quite lucky, surprising, interesting that there are some still working in it. Well, that it even works at all. Screw the front panel down. And we'll now take a look underneath in the bottom. See what delights await us. Okay, underneath. Look at that. Good stuff. Is it good? Okay, so I've got a board there that will hinge out. There's a metal bracket there with some little plastic clips there that work as hinges. And in order to get that open though, we'll have to take this sort of black panel thing off, which is just clipped on. Then, well, that's all we need to do. Okay, now we can see the bottom of the flipping control panel, and it's got this ribbon cable which is peeled away from its stiffener, flexible PCB type thing for the signals, and then underneath that it's got two braids with heat shrink over them to work as a grounding or ESD protection, because one up to this thing across the carpet and give it a massive belt from ESD, so that we needed to couple away to the frame and not into delicate electronics. Whoa, look at all that good stuff. Okay. Oops. Oh well. Nothing broke. It's just pulling some wires through some clips. So let's have a look at this board. Ah, there's the beeper. The beeper. This thing here, that's what does the beeping. That's what all the noise is coming from. So it's right near the front of the machine. It's got these little wires there, and I think that goes just straight onto that. Yes, it does. Okay, so this board we got here is the Luma and Chroma of all the video stuff, and then this corner here is the audio section, and that's written on the other side. You can tell because it's got these delay lines, and also these hybrid module things where it's a bit of flex, aluminium backed flexible board, but with a gap in the aluminium part so that it can be folded in half after it's been surface mount assembled. So it looks like what they'll do is create a panel of these things out flat, do all the surface mount assembly on it, and then the panel borders will get snapped off, and then that will allow the pieces to fold in half, and then they get soldered into the board using an interesting method there where there's a slot in the PCB, and so those two edges of the aluminium thing get pushed through the slot, and then they just sort of soldered up the edge. Presumably that will go through the wave. Probably does. They'll find a way of doing that because you don't want to waste someone's time having to manually solder that. They don't seem to have any scavenger pads at the end. Could be dip soldered maybe, where it just sort of gets pushed into a solder bath. These connectors are hand soldered though. You can tell because there's flux residue around them. Because those connectors are sort of crimped into this plastic assembly thing, so that will come as one piece, and you can't put that in wave soldering or dipping because this plastic hangs down and then it will end up getting melted, so that bit's hand soldered in. There's another version there with this multi-AV DIN plug or something, which isn't installed in this model. Maybe that's one where you have cable TV, so you can get the signals from the decoder. So it's written on here what the various sections of the board are for, or what they do. So yeah, that section there's audio. There's a little bit of servo stuff there. Probably some other sensing IC or something. Seems like that wire there. So it must be just a bit of stuff that they couldn't fit on this board, I guess. So it's just wired up onto here, or maybe it's for better access to trim pots because there are a bunch there. See, it's got still tracking fix, short play, long play, the normal tracking fix, and PG shift. So yeah, it's possibly a design choice to make it easier to set up, just to bring that stuff that needs some variable resistors up onto that other board, because this one here gets sandwiched between that timer board and this one. So that's chroma section, color, and then luminance in that area there, and then the mechanical part over here. Got that separate motor for the take up and supply reel movement, rewind and fast forward, take up during play, the mode switch there, and that is for, maybe it's been replaced since it's a grey plastic one, don't know. That's for telling the processor what state the mechanism is in. So as this motor here, the loading motor, slippy belt, drives the mechanism around to thread up the tape and get it into various modes or states for play, rewind, fast forward, all that stuff, stopped, unloaded. Just get a bit of hair out of that. Then as that happens, this lever gets pushed along when it gets into different states, and that signals, yeah, I ruined it now, and then that signals back to the processor what state it's in. So if you had unplugged the power while it was in play, when it powers up, it will check that state, it will see it's in play, and so it will go back into the stop position and unload the tape, or unthread it at least. I wonder, this is the bottom of the head where it's got the motor part there. Since we saw before that there's no heater on the head drum, which was common to keep moisture away from it to stop condensation forming. What if they just slightly energized one of the coils of the motor? That would provide a little bit of heat, and then you wouldn't need to run one of the power regulators over there, which is what they were doing for heating the drum. It's possible that something like that's happening. There you go, see, it put itself back into normal position since I had moved it. Alright, I think we'll leave it there. We've now done 2 videos on more or less the same VCR, but as the models are slightly different, we need to look at them all. Just put this back together. So that has these clips there and there, which go under those pieces. So you put this in slightly forward, or back that way, which you can see there's a plastic post there and a little slot. So that's the forward position, and then you bring it back like that, and that locks it in. Then you put the screws in, 2 screws. And if necessary for debugging and servicing, you can run it with, take this out, line it over the top, leave it connected up, load a tape into it, and then you can get the machine into play mode with the tape loading mechanism and the tape out of the way, and that way you can then check the tensions and torques and alignment and other parts. Yeah, so because it's got that integrated power regulator there isn't discrete separate regulators hanging around where they can put one of them in there. That's why I wondered if they're using coil of the motor to provide a little bit of heat. Doesn't have automatic operations, so usually, well, on other machines, if the power's off, you could put that in and it would power it up, but not on this one. Interesting. Still pretty good. And those little snowdrop thingies, whatever they're called, the little tearing lines are possibly reduced. Maybe it just needed to warm up a little bit. Look at that, and the slow motion is coming up on the screen now too. Having the slow motion is quite convenient because it means you can set the tracking for slow while using the slow motion, which is a lot easier than checking it or adjusting it when you're in pause mode or still. You see, so now you can get a very clean still image, and you can use the still advance to go 1 frame at a time. Fancy stuff for mid-80s. Very good. So hopefully you found that interesting. A look at the National Video Cassette Recorder NV-770. I think next time we do VCRs, we're going to be looking at probably the 777. Well, that is the next one in the model number series that I own, and that's quite an exciting one, so let's look forward to that. There might be some other videos in the meantime because I have a bunch of other stuff I still need to clear out of here and want to do some videos of as that clearing out is happening. Studio photo flash equipment, reel-to-reel audio tape recorders, and also some old Hewlett-Packard data acquisition type stuff, which is clogging up one room that's got heaps of junk in it, so I need to get rid of some of that stuff, so we should take a look at it. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably also do some more VR chat world exploring. I've thought of some ideas, so that will happen as well, dispersed amongst the videos about VCRs and other electronics. But there you go, that's the VCR for today.